We are going to show you right now the solutions we were talking about right now. Those are solutions of sustainable mobility that come from our industrial tissue at the local, at national level. And we want to highlight with these innovative projects, proposals, not only the industrial capacities, but also the private and public alliances supporting it. Let's go with the first guest to this stage, Miguel Ángel Alonso, Director of Engineering of ALSA, who's going to present his project We Move in a Green Way. Very welcome. Thank you so much. The floor is yours. Perfect. So we are going to start, first of all, to say thank you to the whole organization for this second invitation. We were in the first edition, and really we are very grateful for this invitation to show you this action you are asking from us. We have to show how we are moving despite the pandemics. And I didn't want to forget to congratulate on the organization, because it has been excellent both yesterday and today in everything that has had to do with our arrival from ALSA. What we have got basically is a vision about how to move in this green direction, in this ecological transition in a sustainable way. So what do we want to present here? We want to present a project where you can see where our challenges are going to and how we face them. So for us, how to face any project, in this case, we are going to talk about the project of ALSA is moving in green hydrogen. We face this to find at the end a sustainable and ecological solution based on giving important steps, because we want to guarantee, and in a very humble way, in the technological part, we always have to be very humble, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult, and we know that we are going to learn a new thing each day. And we base this on four main pillars. First of all is innovation, as it is usual. This is a key, and this is something that we are identifying in a very clear way in our whole history, being pioneers in every project. Secondly, the products and services that we do have, always hand in hand with alliances with the main suppliers of vehicles and energetic systems. In third place, we always have to take into account, in our case, safety, security in the field, talking in general both of vehicles, and in the case of the hydrogen, of infrastructures, as it couldn't be otherwise, in the topic of processes. And finally, all these things, and within the private company, must be something really sustainable. We can do anything, but it must be profitable. And in the pilot projects we are doing, we can really reinvest. We can really invest whatever we want to, as much as we want to. We can have subsidies, but in any project we do, and even more one of an ecological transition that must be sustainable, something key for us, which is the scenery we have got now, the one we visualized 2 years ago in the year 2019 when we made the presentation. We talked that hydrogen was appearing, turning up, but really in the last 2 years we have had initiatives and legislation and very clear frameworks about how this topic is moving. Really, we have got a roadmap of green hydrogen, very clear, very much identified. It can be more or less ambitious, but it is already defined. And now we have got in the norms and elements that are going to undergo a transition. But from ALSA, we are not just based on the norms. What we always tried is really to apply our values, those values which are the values of community, values of people, and those are the ones that really launch us to make this complete pack, and in this way to achieve solutions that can be sustainable. And this is really our motivation, for us to have a very clear idea in an image. This has been, in our case, our chronogram of clean technologies. The clean technologies have been implemented by us before 2017. We have been pioneers, and especially in the last years we have to be much quicker. Why? Because the legislation, but also logically in this case, our framework, our legislation framework is going to allow us to look for new solutions in this field. What you see here, we have been working in the last years in solutions from the electrical part to the one of renewable gas. We have always worked in the field of being able to optimize these solutions. And first of all, just to tell you that our first electrical vehicle was there in 2017, and in the year 2016-17, we introduced in Bilbao the first vehicles with a certain volume that were electrical and using batteries. And in this field, we have improved technology in a substantial way. And in the last years, we have even integrated vehicles within our fleet, the so-called autonomous vehicles. And right now, they are working at the fourth level, one less at the maximum, which is now with many interesting services, and the electrical vehicle too. But where do these things lead us in order to explain our roadmap of hydrogen, and how we can visualize this, and why in ALSA we need hydrogen. In order to do this, I wanted to present this slide where you can see that if we go from the bottom to the top, this is going to show you where do we want to achieve. In the part of diesel, Euro 6, Euro 7, Euro 6 this year too, everything has been made up, and it is true that we really must have a very good performance. But in the last years, we have also been using hydro vehicles, mixed vehicles, gas vehicles, and this is eco-label. And this means that we have solved basically in these last years in a transitory way these technologies, but where we have to move right now as a company, as leaders in the sector, in this case, is in the zero emissions technology. And which are the solutions we can offer for it? We have got basically two. One of them is the electrical battery vehicle, and the other one is the one of electrical battery too. And really the traction is really electrical. And why hydrogen? Because of a topic that is perfectly defined. With the vehicle of batteries, we can make a transition, and there we have got the first vehicles in the urban part, and there we have options that we are going to present in a very short term of this metropolitan vehicle, a development of the urban one. But what does it happen for the things we need in our fleet? We have got a mix of the long run, of metropolitan, so we need a solution covering the whole range of vehicles. Nowadays we don't have these solutions yet. We are working on them, but what we do know is that at the moment the only zero emission solutions that could give us the solution in the future is the hydrogen, because in hydrogen what we are seeing in the tests we are doing is that in fact they will be able to cover the long distances, and those for us are complementary technologies. All of them are going to survive, all of them are going to live in one way or another, but if we want to reach the zero emission, we have to combine the one of batteries and the hydrogen. So that you can capture the idea. Despite the pandemics, we haven't stopped in these two last years. We wanted to prove these technologies because as an operators, we are bound to do this as soon as possible. And in this case, really in the market, the offer is very, very scarce. We have just two solutions of manufacturers that have got an important industrial capacity, that have got an after-sales capacity, are reliable, sustainable, and the two solutions we have is the Toyota Caetano and CAF Solaris. In the case of CAF Solaris, we will start to prove it after the Zoom, after this Congress, and in the case of Toyota Caetano, we have been for some months, almost 1 year, making tests with it, so that you can capture the idea of it. Some slides here. The most important thing of these vehicles is very similar as the urban ones we have got right now, but the main thing is that according to the manufacturer, the time of taking the fuel is less than 10 minutes, and And really with these electrical vehicles, one of the most delicate points is the point of this night recharge, because we are talking about 6 hours. And so that you can capture the idea, these vehicles have deposits of 37 kilograms, more or less 350 bars. This is really a respectable pressure. And a very interesting thing in this case is what is really that the autonomous vehicle could really overcome these 400 kilometers. And apart from this, there are a couple of batteries so that you can capture the idea. We are talking around 450 kilowatts of loaded load, but in the one of this battery we are talking just about 2%, I think he said. So what are we going to do? We are going to test it as a design of the vehicle so that you can capture the idea that it's not so complicated, the traditional cinematic change, so motor, engine, gears and so on. It is on the upper part, the same as in the electrical vehicles, with 4 main elements. So the pack of batteries that is not covering the whole park as in an electrical vehicle. Second place, the deposits, in this case of hydrogens. We are talking about 40 kilos. And then we have conditioned air, and the pack, in this case, the pack of what this fuel battery means. This, and with an electrical motor in the axis, we have got everything. At the level of maintenance, that should be quite simple. And in order to know all these things, we are always very curious, and we wanted to test it from the very first moment. What did we do? So the same as in the roadmap of the hydrogen, we made the ALSA roadmap, and we are going to test to prove the vehicles of hydrogen. What we have defined for it is to test in all our operations the vehicles in every condition. This is really the key for all of us in order to know how reliable they are, how profitable they are, how they operate. And in this case, something very curious, there is a topic which is not a minor one, the one of the load. Logically, hydrogen, we are saying, we are listening that it's going to be the vector of the future, but we have to find a solution how to load these vehicles when there is not a network yet. And we are getting accompanied by a portable load station for hydrogen that is accompanying us in the different movements. This is not a solution for the future, but this is a solution that with this green hydrogen allows us to test these vehicles in a direct way. And this road has taken us, first of all, a lot through Madrid. Then we were testing it for 3 months in Oviedo, because there we also had lines of different profiles, and that was very convenient. Quite recently we went to Almeria, and right now, making the most of the sun, we have got it here. We had already foreseen to make the most of this, and in these next weeks what you are going to see is circulating along the streets of Bilbao, so that you can see it, because it's going to start functioning in order to compare it with the rest of the vehicles. We have got hybrid vehicles here, last generation electrical ones, and we have got right now the test of this vehicle in Bilbao, which is going to be one of the most important milestones, and you can also see it in the exhibition of vehicles. And this at the very end, what was the key aspect? The most important here, the most important thing is really to check and to focus on the core we have to be based on. And here we have got a second aspect. If we have to do it, which are the challenges we are going to have around? And in this case, what we can tell you, because we are talking about more than 5,000, 6,000 kilometers functioning in our test, what we see as something very positive is that it is zero emissions, as we said before, so it would cover our future. Secondly, it is a silent, totally silent vehicle. Traction is totally electrical. Autonomy, as the manufacturer says, this was right, but we have been surprised, because in some cases, depending on the orography or the profile, we are talking about 500 kilometers of autonomy, so it fulfills the expectations. The time of load, depending on this case, on the load station, 9 minutes, can be a little bit more, can be a little bit less, but it is covered, so it is a radical change. And the dynamic behavior has been perfect. You can see that the design is totally standard, this is a solution that can be very positive when we have buses, and we are already talking to manufacturers so that they can develop these solutions for the long distances. Scalability with such a varied fleet as the one we have got is going to be very interesting to be able to escalate and to add demand in our own company in order to combine it in a complementary way with other technologies. But it is true that we can join typologies of vehicles, and apart from this we have got other elements, which is the roadmap of the hydrogen. It is defined, we'll have to make the most of it. And on the part, and we'll talk about it afterwards, on the part of the administration, probably there can be a PERTE, a component number 9 within the strategy in Spain. But in the end, the most important thing is that this hydrogen vector can be one of the keys of the industry in the future. And what have we seen in the challenge, not in the negative part, but which are the challenges? So the offer of buses is still very limited. There is only one urban vehicle. The price of the bus, well, there are not these escalation economies yet. And one of the main points that must be solved is the cost of the infrastructure and the price of the hydrogen too. This is something very important for us, because it's not only the capex what we have to solve, but in the end we have to find the balance with the opex, and in the end the price of the green hydrogen, what is being demanded from us, really has to be green. At the moment, I'll tell you that the price will have to be reduced in 50%. What we are buying as a green hydrogen nowadays. And apart from this is an element that we see that is very much dependent, because we are talking with the main stakeholders of this hydrogen ecosystem, and at the moment depends very much on European subventions. In this European subvention, the access is still quite difficult, hasn't been well structured, but it's going to be in the next months. And something very important as an operator is this TCO, the total cost ownership. And we would like to make clear which are the main elements we have detected. So we in a TCO, what we visualize is everything, because really operational investment is something key for us. But we wanted to clarify 3 main points. First of all, the cost of acquisition, it is still a differential one. There are still differences regarding, for instance, or compared to an electrical battery vehicle. This is a clear fact. And we can talk about more than 100,000 euros. Infrastructure is key. Without infrastructure right now, you know that there are not networks of hydrogen. There are small points where we can find supplies, but we have to look for solutions that must be portable, and this is what we have been looking for in the first vehicle we are going to have in operation in a continuous way. The first we are going to operate in Spain, and we are going to set up a portable infrastructure, but with compression in order to reach these 350 bars. And the fuel consumption is also something clean, something key. In order for you to see the importance of the test we have done, we are talking about 7 kilos, and this is under the estimation of the manufacturer. But here what we have to see that this objective price of the green hydrogen, we consider that with the investments, European subsidies, we can reduce it, because this is going to be one of the main elements in order to see the complete cost of this propriety. And to finish, in order not to run out of time, just to tell you how we visualize right now within ALSA, which are the challenges we have got right now, and how to make up this box of hydrogen from our point of view in order to advance. First of all, we have got a key element, especially in Spain, which are the net elevations. And in the case of Spain, this might be the vertebrating point and the pivoting point where all the hydrogen strategy moves around. Why? Because we have got many components. As we have said, infrastructure is something key at this moment. We haven't got any network. And we know that we have got reliable solutions, but those vehicles, in the case of the structuring of funds and components 1 and 9, we must proportionally help the vehicles in the same way we help the others with the same quantities regarding the price. Third, something very important, this hydrogen roadmap. It doesn't matter how ambitious it can be, but we have to fulfill what we already have. And something very important here is that we must be a little bit more humble, and we shouldn't really think of ourselves, because the topic of hydrogen means aggregating demand. If we do not aggregate demand among all of us in a public and private way, it's going to be very, very difficult to go forward. So initiatives as this Basque Hydrogen Corridor, and we are immersed in it, and we are very thankful for being in this cluster, because they are making up many valleys, and this is something key, because this is what is going to allow us to advance here. And another point, the infrastructures that somehow are linked to the new technologies, as it has happened to gas, it can happen to hydrogen right now, must be adapted, and everything must go together hand in hand, and it must be the same thing. I say this because in the hubs, if we don't allow the entrance to gas or hydrogen vehicles, we won't be able to establish those vehicles in order to do these things. So on the part of the administration, this private public cooperation is something key. As Alfonso said, we have to go hand in hand. And these European funds, and I wanted to remark this, we understand that everything must be more balanced, or must be more balanced in the next 3 years, both in the public and the private, with these subsidies of the European funds, and also in the different sectors. So aviation, train, and automobile industry. So especially all the components are how the purchases are structured. But when the part of hydrogen is launched, it must be coordinated with the things we need. So this must be right coordinated. We understand it is very difficult, and we have had a lot of money in order to structure it. But we know that the administration is working actively on this, an integral and coordinated vision of the different administrations in order to adjust these infrastructures. And then finally, this more integral view on the part of the companies. They must be more cooperative, and we need, of course, manufacturers, and they need them to develop solutions, not only the ones we have got at the urban level, and also for the future solutions we have got in the long distance and the regions. And basically, this is our view, our project. This is the way we have been working on hydrogen. And just to thank you, and you will be able to see the vehicle on site here in Bilbao in these next days. Thank you so much. So thank you so much to you, Mr. Alonso, for your presentation. We are looking forward to seeing this bus of hydrogen you have brought to Bilbao, and really you have posed many challenges, and we have to focus on them, and we still have to really focus on them, how interesting this new world is, and the new possibilities offered by these new energies, and the same as the solutions that are offered to fight against the sound contamination, another element we have to work on when we are talking about sustainable movement. And we have invited Cristina Lopez, Director of Research and Development and Research of this Basque network. So the floor is yours. Be very welcome. Okay, good morning. Good morning to you all. Yes, I'm going to present. Okay, now I'm going to present an innovative project within the framework of sustainability in the public transport, focusing especially on the problems of the sound pollution. The first thing I'm going to explain, for those of you who don't know us, what is this Basque railway network. We have been created by the Basque government to manage and to administrate the railway infrastructures depending on the Basque government. We have the competencies in order to plan, project, build, and manage lines such as the one of Bilbao San Sebastian to go to Bermeo, the line to Bermeo, the line to the Chorierri, and we have planned and we have built Bilbao Underground, and especially the third line, and we manage it and we maintain it. Also the trams of Vitoria-Gasteiz and Bilbao, and we have got also as an order the project and construction of the Y, of the Basque Y. If we analyze our lines, we can realize, we can see that we go through many urban places, and stations are integrated within the very own urban core, and there are two direct consequences. First of all, at the level of mobility, because we are breaking the permeability within the municipality, and the second one, really this quality of the sound for the citizens, and this is the problem I want to focus on right now. The European Agency of the Environment had already identified on several occasions the railway transport as the second means of transport that is affecting the population in a deeper way regarding this acoustic influence, and we have got the rules too, and in the legislation that they have developed, they have already implemented in a very clear way the need that the railway bodies and transport bodies in general, or the managers, we should get involved in the actions, in the performance of actions in order to improve these sound affection, these sound problems. And aligned with this, ETS together with Ternalia, we wanted to work in order to implement measures that would improve the acoustic quality of the areas we affect. We made a market research in order to find solutions adapted to our problems, but as we didn't find anything that could give the solutions we needed, we started from scratch and we designed some elements ourselves that could be adapted to what we were searching for. First of all, what we did was to analyze which is the source of noise. In the case of the railway, our lines have got a maximum velocity of 80 kilometers per hour, so this is a low speed, and in the areas where we want to act, those are urban areas where we have got access to this. Really, it is even less. So really, the contact between the wheel and the rail is the source of the noise. So we wanted to create an element that would try to isolate the noise, getting as close as possible to the source of it. So the contact of the wheel and the rail. What we did was to analyze how traditional systems, so these acoustic screens we all know function, that are implemented on every road. So those are an element which is a vertical one, and it is the obstacle for the propagation of the noise waves, generating an area of acoustic shadow. We have got an effect on the final part of it, of diffraction of the waves, what decreases this area of acoustic shadow. And we have to think too that the efficiency of the screens depends on whether they have got or not absorbing material. What we wanted was to define an element that would solve this diffraction of the waves, and apart from this, in order to improve the acoustic efficiency, should have absorbing material too. Therefore, we wanted to create some barriers of a low height that would get as close as possible to the source of the noise, that should have a minimally visual intrusive. This is what we want to implement in the urban centers, and the traditional screens had got a height from 3 to 6 meters of height, and quite often we have suggested the neighbors, in order to help to solve their acoustic problem, to place those traditional screens, and they have said no, they prefer to see the train and to listen to the train instead of having a wall of 5 5 meters in front of their houses. So we were looking for an element that wouldn't be so intrusive at the visual level. As we wanted to place them close to the source of the noise, we placed it within the domain of the railway. Therefore, they had to be a compatible element with the railway installations. It didn't have to have any cementation, because if we must make a cementation, we are agitating the railway installations, and that was the problem of the traditional screens. The heights of 3-5 meters produce an effect that has to be compensated with very important cementation. So therefore, you have to look for areas outside of this railway domain, and you need really to make expropriations too, so that the screens would function perfectly. We should place them one on each side of the railway. This is a section in a double railway, and we can see here how those screens must be placed, but always respecting the aerodynamics of the train. And this guaranteed that the screens, the mini screens, should be compatible with the machinery of the maintenance of the railway. That is something very important for us as managers, and also being in charge of maintenance as we are. And once we already had the clear criteria of design, together with Technalia, we make the models of this acoustic behavior of the geometrical design we had. And the next thing was to manufacture them with the cooperation of Bexa. Those were the modules. Those are modules of concrete, 2 meter long, 120 height. And if you look at them, there is a kind of beam on the upper part, and this is the one solving the problem of the diffraction of the waves. And that's why we are improving its efficiency, its acoustic efficiency. Then the holes are the areas that allow the sound enter in the inner part, where the absorbing material is, that on its turn is protected by a layer in such a way that it avoids that this can get dirty because of dust. They are self-carrying. They can be placed very easily with a normal lorry, a normal crane. So really, this is the influence on the traffic is really minimal. There is no maintenance need, and all these features have got an effect on the economy. They are very competitive at an economical level compared to the traditional screens, achieving, as we are going to see now, even better results at the level of acoustic absorption. So obviously, once we had the modules, we had to put them to the test. So we chose the municipality of Ermua in order to install them and to see how they were really working. Why Ermua? Because it is an area especially polluted at an acoustic level. We have got the station, and in order to reach the station, a very, very steep curve with a very small radius, 80 meters. And this fact, joined to the other fact that the train is braking or accelerating to have access to the station, makes this creak sound in a frequency that is very disturbing for the human ears. And in this area, there are many railway installations putting to the test all these mini barriers at the time of placing them. And also, we have got facades that are just 4 meters away of the railway. So, logically, before installing them, we, of course, adopted the acoustic measures, and then we repeated the same actions in these measurements, and these are the results. In the graphics down there, we have got via 1 and via 2. In orange color, you can see the decibelios that had been obtained before the installation, and then in red, the ones after the installation. And visually, we can appreciate a difference regarding the measurement of this sound. And this difference has been represented in the graphics of bars up there. The average of absorption of is the 10, And we have got even 14. We have reached a value of 14. For those of you who are not used to deal with these acoustic values, I would tell you that decibels have got a logarithmic scales. So having achieved through these mini variables a reduction of 10 decibels is the same as for the human ear if we would eliminate 9 out of 10 trains of the railway traffic. With these results that were so positive, we dared to candidate for an international award of innovation in Finland, the Quality Innovation Award, and we were so lucky to be given the first prize in this category of public service. So, as of course it couldn't be in a presential meeting, this concession of the award, they asked us to make a video in order for us to explain what this Eusko Trenbidez area was and what we did. So I'm going to end up with this video that is very short, but it's going to help you to understand what I have tried to transmit to you. Doesn't work. Oh my god. Do we have it or not? Okay. Well, it's a pity. It's a real pity. Okay, it's a pity we can't see it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, in any case, thank you so much, Mrs. Lopez, for your presentation. This video, we haven't been able to see the video in your presentation, but it is visible in this showcase area of the platform through which we are transmitting this Congress. So afterwards, we will be able to see it then. So it is quite clear that the change to sustainable mobility must take into account, must have people at the core, their welfare and health. And this example we have just seen is a real good test of it. And thanks to Eusko Trenbidez area for its work and their contributions. Now we are going to call Chema Otero, Director for Spain's and Portugal of Irizar Mobility, who's going to present two projects. On the one hand, what of autonomous driving of vehicles, it is functioning in Malaga, and the second one of turnkey solutions for mobility. So, Chema, the floor is yours. Okay, we also need solutions to take the mask off with the microphone. So just a second, please. Okay, good morning to you all. And beforehand, just allow me to thank especially the sponsors, the organizers of this Congress we have got today, for giving us the opportunity for the second time of being able to share with all of you our project of electromobility, which is, we are very enthusiastic about it. As you can know, well, those of you who know the world of the buses, Irizar is a company that has been there for longer than 130 years, and we are going to try to give you a context about what the products, the articles, items we have got for the topic of mobility. So, as I've said, this is a company that is a family one that was created in the year 1889 at the heart of the Goierri in Gipuzkoa. It belonged to the family Irizar, and of course with different obstacles along the story. Then it was a cooperative, and now it is a kind of cooperative society too. We are in Ormaiztegi. And after that, this process of growth that have led us to where we are right now basically in the business of transport of passengers, and also with these luxury buses, all of us know other activities such electromobility. We are going to talk today quite specifically, and all the topics regarding this transport of passengers at the urban electronical way. Electronics, of course, this is part of our diverse products. All of them, all our products have got a very important component of that, and the management of energy, that would be what would be of an electrical engine vehicle without those batteries, and we manufacture them too. We have the know-how within the home, and we also develop our own points, and we also implement it in our vehicles, the engines, of course the electrical engines, the combustion engines, and connectivity. So this management of data, connectivity in everything regarding mobility. So at the end we generate a very big amount of data, which is something necessary and even positive, that they can measure, that they can control, and then they, to sum up, can be more efficient regarding the operations we do. As I've said, the group Irizar is made up by 7 different companies, some of them directly related with the buses, and some of them haven't got much relationship with it. Those are the companies we have got there on this map on the right. So the matrix is Irizar Mobility, Irizar Coop. We are producing these electrical vehicles. Datic, which is our company, which is managing the part of communication and data. Alconza is here in Verango, and we manufacture the electrical engines with it for our vehicles. Massats, which is in Manresa, and they manufacture all the systems of both accessibility, doors, ramps, and so on. Espacol, which is in Seville, when we are manufacturing the air condition systems. Then we have got factories in in other continents. We have got in Morocco, in Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, and USA, and different delegations all around the world. Nowadays, before the pandemics and after the pandemics, we are more than 3,000 people within the group, and I think this is a very important data to be highlighted, because all of us have suffered from these circumstances we have just experienced, and despite all these things, we, in coherence with our way of managing and thinking and understanding business, we have been faithful to our spirit, and we maintain the complete staff in the same number as when all the pandemics started, and until now we go on, and we are even more enthusiastic, if possible, than what we used to be. And now dealing, which is exactly Irizar e-mobility, it is a relatively young company. So in the year 2010 we started to talk about electromobility, and nobody was talking really about this concept. We came from manufacturing vehicles, luxury vehicles, so not buses really, but luxury big vehicles, and somehow we didn't know the sector really. So we started in a parallel way to design, first of all, a urban vehicle, and of course there are some differences with luxury big vehicle, and in a parallel way we started to research and to develop with different partners what it could be a vehicle driven in an electrical way. Perhaps this is somehow the combination of the strategy of diversification that the group has followed for several years, and maybe we were combining both things because, as we've said, we had companies that were managing the electronical part, companies that were manufacturing the electrical engines, companies that were making conditioner system for trains, for trams. So all these things really could merge in one of these new vehicles. We started in the year 2010, 2011, and in the year 2013 we had the first vehicle on the road. We also manufacture our own battery, so we start from the whole industrial development and the assembly in the same way. We have got infrastructures of loading and as it is of use. We know these characteristics. Of course, there must be a loading system down there, and we have got different systems of loading, the management of fleet, as I've said before, and of course the service and integral service to the customer, which is part of us. So, what I've said, this is a relatively young company. We started with this project of this factory. This is in Aduna, close to San Sebastian, and we started with the acquisition of the grounds in the year 2013, 2014, more or less. And we had the idea to create something different. That was our aim, to create a company that could speak that the very own factory should talk about the image of the company, something different, something innovative, and something with all the own features of the brand. In the year 2017, we started to produce in it, and in the year 2018, we had a lot of production. And nowadays, it is almost small for us. But anyway, we are talking about 18,000 square meters, and now with the capacity we have got, we are really needing something bigger. So this is the range, this would be the range of products we offer. I'm going to talk about each of them. The ones we are manufacturing in Aduna plant, the EE bus, which is the origin of everything. This is a bus, in order to understand this, that is circulating in Bilbao, the traditional one. This is the typical bus. This is a square with a look very similar to the ones of an ordinary one. So we do not distinguish it much. The E-tram, and then we are going to talk about the E-tram, and we are going to enter into detail about what this vehicle is, with more tram-like look, and our jewel, that is the E-truck, which is a truck of electrical driving, and nowadays we are producing it, in this case for Barcelona. So the IE bus, this is the new generation, so that you can see how all these things evolve in this market of electromobility. We have started in 2010 with the design, and this is the second generation. So this is an evolution from that vehicle, and we are talking just about the last 11 years. This is a traditional vehicle with the typical configurations of the vehicle of urban transport, with different layouts, with different lengths, and so on, with different conditions, right, left, and so on. Depending on the countries it is devoted to, but really is not very much distinguished from an electrical vehicle. Looks very traditional, but the upper part is somehow thicker, and we can guess that some machines can be included there. The IE tram. This is another of the jewels of the company, and it is a result of our innovative spirits and our restless spirit regarding mobility, regarding design. We saw that there was a series of gaps that we had to fill, and it was partially fulfilled by the tram, but also other elements came together, and those were challenges, and there was some room for improvement, and the tram, from our point of view, solves this. So at the end, this is a vehicle that talks by itself. We do not need to explain much, just to look at it. People really understand that we are talking about something different, innovative, something electrical, but it has got the fundamental advantages. It isn't as rigid or it hasn't implied the burden of the infrastructure of a typical truck. We can insert it here, there, depending on the demand and the different companies or cities. The IE truck, this is what I was remarking, this product uh, is born from a project where different stakeholders are participating, and as every project of these features, in the end it is deciding on certain leaderships, and in this specific case the are represented by FCC and also ERISA, and it is born because of their need of having a vehicle with a different booth, with different taxes. Obviously, we are experts on that, and we know and we have got a very big knowledge regarding these accessibility topics, and moreover they were contributing with more technological needs that we had to cover. So talking about this, we started to talk in a joint way, to work in a joint way, and nowadays we work in a very narrow way together. And here we have got the both vehicles, one to be loaded at the back and one to be loaded on the side, the one on the left. And nowadays we have started the production to deliver vehicles with these features in Barcelona. We understand that this is gonna be a product that is going to have a very good future. At the moment there is not a big demand, in the sense that the cities are perhaps a little bit cautious at the time of asking for it, but obviously the competitive advantages of a product like this, when they become more obvious, I think that this is going to provoke an important demand. And obviously we are working on other kind of appliances. We are working in a very intensive way in order to develop some of these features for the last mile, for port and airport areas. So this has got a specific feature from the point of view of the autonomy, that it is the only vehicle in the factory of electromobility that we have mounted with an extensor of NGC, and we are making the test in different cities of Spain, and this is going to allow to have an autonomy identical to a lorry with fuel. So a part of our core, as I've said before, is the manufacture of batteries, cooperating with technological centers of acknowledged reputation at the European level. So we have been developing what is the part of integration from the cell, what it is the battery pack, and we have developed different systems of storing of energy depending on the typology of the service it is devoted to. There are computers that the load must be a very slow one. It is a night one, and a quick one. This is something intermediate between the slow one and the opportunity one and the ultra quick, and we are talking about a power really very high, as in the case of Vitoria. So, okay, just 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. The solutions, obviously, all the solutions of log that we have installed in the different projects are interoperable. What does this mean? This means that we can sell the charger on the one hand, and then on the other hand the bus, or to sell a bus with a charger of another brand. It shouldn't be either, but of course they can interact among both. And to finish with what, just to show you one of the different projects we have given and that are functioning in different parts of Europe. For instance, in Amiens, in France, we have got more than 40 vehicles in a BRT line in transit. with also a ultra quick charge, so with the concept of quicker mobility. All of them, as I said, with this ultra quick charge with power of more than 600 kilowatts. The one in Bayonne, wonderful peak, the contrast between the classical and the modern thing. And example ones, Schaffhausen in Switzerland, and this has got a specific feature that all the energy that is used to load the vehicles comes from an electrical central that they have got within the river. And let's say that this is a practical example of it. Then the one of Vitoria and the bay has already started to move along Vitoria-Gasteiz. It started in September with the first unit. We have got two vehicles, manufacturers, well, depending on the infrastructure, it has to be settled down here, and different vehicles, undergrounds. I'm not going to show the video just in case it happens to me the same as it has happened to Christina. Other projects that are remarkable and strategical for us, such as the TMB of Barcelona, where we have just won for the second time the contest, the tenders of units of 18 meters with these charge loaders. Then we have got the Bilbao bus, we have got here, it is exhibited here, you can see it right now, Zaragoza. We have almost 70 vehicles of the features of the IE tram. In Madrid, we are in the fourth version of the orders. Obviously in Madrid, and regarding the electrical mobility, and then the RATP in Paris, all of us in this world know that is one of the most demanding customers regarding the services. And last, and really last, because we have been talking about this autonomous driving, this unmanned driving. So with this innovative spirit we have got, we are starting with other projects that are really innovative and that have a long future. This is the first unmanned autonomous driving circulating along Malaga. This is a trajectory between an itinerary between the port and the center of the city, and with sensors, with the sensor system and different elements that are integrated within the vehicle. Finally, this is a vehicle that can be moved in an autonomous way, and the driver must be there, obviously. So this is all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Otero, for your presentation of innovation and leadership. And this is what you are showing us, and also the rest of the companies are showing us when they are talking in this Congress between today and tomorrow, and a lot of public and private cooperation. And this is what we are betting on in order to make a transition to a sustainable mobility. And this is what they are going to talk about us in the project Smartia, which is a project of sustainable and intelligence model presented by Juan Marín Cruzado, Director of Rural Mobility for Space and Portugal from CRAPS Trafficcom. So be very welcome. Okay, good morning. The truth is that I feel very lucky to be here with you and to be able to tell about this innovative project. It is true that the previous lecturers, whom I congratulate on their ambition and the developments they are doing of this means of transport, something fundamental. In this project called Smart Tiago Intelligent Mobility, launched by the Santiago City, really what they develop, is a project based on technology. When we are talking about CAPS, about our company, we always say the same slogan, which is challenging limits. So the truth is that challenging limits is something we have been doing for the last 130 years. We invest very much in research and development, and we try to be always innovative, pioneer, visionary too. And in this case, somebody won us. In this project, the city of Santiago was really far ahead from us. They were visionary, it is visionary, it is a pioneer, and we are so lucky to have added to this project, to have integrated in this project. I'm going to tell about the challenges and benefits it means for us. As Alfonso Gil has said this morning, we are in a change of paradigm. This is an obvious fact, and this change of paradigm we denominate it as the new urban mobility. So in every aspect, and especially in the cities, this new urban mobility needs for this change, from our point of view, the technology, of course. We are talking about digitalization, and the truth is that we understand digitalization in a different way. We will develop it little by little, step by step, but this has really to impact on a strong way of mobility, and it has to allow a management of the things in a different way. City of Santiago has seen it like this, has seen the challenge, and they wanted to go far ahead. It is a very ambitious project, but we think it's very feasible and it is replicable. Is one of the objectives of this project, and we are talking about also a patrimony city with this old city as the one we have got. When we are talking about digitalization, we try to choose information, and we need to integrate this information. The new urban mobility cannot be included without the integral vision of mobility. We cannot develop it, we cannot manage it if we do not integrate a global, holistic and integral view of mobility, and therefore we must integrate it in information. We have to try to use this information to make this integral management, but also in order to integrate predictive and proactive ways of management. Just in 4 hints. This is a project that is using the federal funds. It is based on innovative public procurement, and of course there has been a budget for it, and we think that these kind of tools are very interesting for these innovative things. We had a budget of 1.4 million. This is a technological budget included in these platforms of smart city evolving from this from this bottom to the top of mobility, and having mobility as a cross-cutting access in the whole city. And we think it is unique and pioneer in Europe, and now we are in the equator of this project. Just to describe the project with this graphic, those are 5 components. Here on the left we have some elements that we have integrated and we have even developed because they do not exist. In order to integrate an information we need to use afterwards, because data is really the input and they are fundamental. We will choose cameras that are going to be very modern with artificial vision. These cameras are going to develop their own processes within the very own camera using technologies of edge computing. It is something indispensable, otherwise we couldn't develop this kind of projects. And moreover, since we are talking about a city which is World Heritage, where the pavement is very delicate and so on, we are going to integrate some elements that are being prototyped, which are the receptors of speed that are going to measure to the weight of these vehicles in order to try not to damage this World Heritage. So with this whole information set and this data, what do we want them for? In order to have some useful information. The one we have got in this group on the right, which is the Center of Integral Management of Mobility. So we need a global view of it. And for all these elements, or data or metadata that we are going to have available through this artificial vision and these data sources, we need algorithms developed within artificial intelligence and based on these things in order to be able to use this information and to develop it so that it becomes a useful information. But what for? In order to manage, and what do we want to manage? Well, we are going to introduce a concept, and it might not be useful for you, but mobility has been based on a management of capacity infrastructure. If we are talking about a World Heritage City with such old part of the city, really we are very limited, and we have to manage demand if we want to manage mobility, and we can only exert influence on it and we know the behavior. That's why those algorithms are so important, because this allows us to identify these models of mobility well, used through a management platform that is going to integrate this information, that is going to develop predictive and operative models to manage it, and obviously measured and using the historical data, the behavior, in order to predict and in order somehow to plan it in the right way. Okay. If we enter in these camera systems quite briefly, we are going to install, apart from the existing ones, 40 additionals in the old part of the city. We are going to make many things, so register the registration number of the vehicle and to classify all the vehicles in brand, color, size, kind of vehicle. And as Alfonso has said this morning, it's very important, the logistic of the last mile, something fundamental, especially in a city as complicated as Santiago, with such complicated equipment in the very own city. So we need to identify all these vehicles and all these wares and goods vehicles, integrating it with other databases of the city in order to classify it, because in order to know them well, we are going to monitorize their behavior. We are not going just to be focused on the vehicles, but also on pedestrians. There is no new mobility without also this control of the individual, or the monitorization of the individual pedestrians. We have to monitorize that, and we have to extract data, and we are going to use these algorithms in order to identify them according to their type, flows, and also on real time. We are not interested in the behavior of people individually, but as a whole, especially to be able to manage them, to be able to identify them, to be able to plan it for the future. For a city which is World Heritage, it is very important to take care of the looks of it and the preservation of it. So we are going to use this kind of algorithms to identify graffitis, to identify bulks that have been left behind, people that have painted walls. This is something very useful, and this is something very necessary, and it is quite difficult that at the moment of sustainability we are now, it would be very difficult not to integrate elements that will help us to integrate this management of greenhouse effect and the polluting things. So we are going to incorporate specific sensors in order to measure pollution. We have included a group of indicators that is going to allow us to monitorize this in the right way, because without measuring it, we cannot do anything, and we are not measuring pollution well. This is something we have to say. And then another aspect, we have got all the processes that we cannot develop just with the cameras, and we need a specific algorithm. So in this whole information has to be transferred in useful ones. So those techniques of artificial intelligence and big data and analytics that are so important and necessary to use these informations, and how we need also to use it for the traffic of wares, and to start designing strategies of the last mile, something very important for also the private vehicles, and as I have told you, for the pollution, integrated in a global model. Okay. Now we have got the information, we have got the useful information. What do we do with it? This is the important thing, because the information, the useful one, if I don't use it, is good for nothing. So what for? To plan. So it is important, how do we dimension our problem? What is the demand of services like? And I was saying that we do not have only to know it, but we have to exert influence on it if we want to manage this mobility for the future in the right way. And what is the distribution like of this logistic of the last mile? Or how do how do the planning of cleaning or the policies of cleaning, how are they improved, and how vehicles can be used in a more efficient way. So we have to manage. So I'm not only planning, I have to manage, I have to see what is happening. I have to get anticipated to what is happening to all the information we are receiving and which is the best protocol. We have to test. So I'll test it and we'll have to measure. So in order to measure, we'll use these techniques I've mentioned before in order to use all these databases and in order to see this behavior, in order to predict when there can be big masses of people in certain places, or which are the places that have got this people agglomeration, or how this delivery of wares is taking place, at what time, and so on. And last, in a society where all of us are connected and information is so important, it is also important and fundamental to let this information know, to inform in the right way, and to use the transparency of data, because as administration we are not isolated, we are interconnected with everyone. So the transparency of data, this transference of data, this interoperability is really very important. So to sum up, which are the benefits we've got? Or which are the benefits we expect to have from the point of view of the citizens? Some of them are obvious. A bigger efficiency in mobility, a bigger safety, a bigger management in the cleanliness of the roads, some best information and more information in order to use the means of transport and so on. How can have access to the citizen for the very city? On the one hand, we are positioned in the city in an avant-garde place with a qualitative jump. In this project, we are reducing all the systems of the city. We are going to use all of them, so the whole investment can be used in an integrative way, and we are going to use it in order to integrate all these elements. Obviously, with a much bigger capacity of proactive operation and the preservation and enhancement of the World Heritage. I think that those of you who are here and are managing a city of this kind, it's very important to link this World Heritage with innovation and technology. Additional benefits. The additional benefits, so we are reviewing this strategic plan, and then we can reach some strategical future challenges. As it is a project of cooperation in a public and private way with innovative policy, some of the elements, they can be commercialized. The town hall will benefit for some kind of royalties. On the other hand, best practices. We think that this can become a very big reference, and we are telling it here. So I think that part of the goal of the city is achieved, and of course a real scenario of innovation and technology, and to make Santiago a more attractive city, which is one of the goals that most of the states are pursuing. Most of the cities are pursuing. I want to thank the organization for having given us the opportunity of listening to us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you too, Mr. Marin, for having presented this as Martiago and all the good features. What do you think if now we ride on a helicopter? Yes, this is one of the other solutions in order to think of this change of paradigm to the new mobility. We invite to come to the stage in order to present this first helicopter taxi of Spain fed with electricity for the urban transfer. Javier Coleto, responsible for the strategy of intelligent mobility in Tecnalia, with the company of Carlo Poveda, CEO of UMLIS, and they together have developed this first taxi, this electrical taxi of Spain, the sustainable one. Thank you so much. We are eager to know what you have to tell us. Thank you so much. I'm gonna need a video to be played after a small introduction. Let's hope that it works. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much, especially to the organizers of this event for having invited us to present this project. So the first air taxi, and we started to develop it in Tecnalia but recently it has the company Jumas has joined the company as Carlos, as representative of it, is here. So I wanted that they somehow would give us not only technological view as the role of Tecnalia, but also the view of product and service that this taxi is gonna have in the midterm, because in the short term we still have a long way to go. So prior to a small video which is explanatory, I would like to make a small introduction on why motivation, why are we in this field. And as Tecnalia, we have been working for long years in the field of the sustainable intelligent mobility, and it is reinforced now, and we are developing solutions with a holistic view. As Juan has said before, developing solutions that are going to improve the technological capacity and the competitiveness of our companies, but also with a social point of view. That's very important too, because technologies have to contribute to these goals of the sustainable development, this elimination of the CO2 and trying to generate qualitative employment. These are the three basic pillars. And we are going to go into deep and we have to adapt it to the intelligent infrastructures. And we are talking about an example of what they are, the integration of technologies, of communication, of information, and everything having to do with the management of this data, with these techniques of artificial intelligence is a very strong point. And in Tecnalia, we want to keep on working with the smart mobility labs and also incorporating intelligence in infrastructure to promote this dialogue infrastructure vehicle. And we should be able to talk about all these systems of mobility. And in fact, we are working on spaces where through these intelligent things we can test and we can prove and we can strengthen certain technological parts and solutions of mobility in environments as highways and urban environments. We are working very much on the sustainability, to work on new fuels and obviously electrifications. And this has been in the same table, developments that have been made for a long time, systems of electrical powertrain for buses, for lorries, for any kind of vehicles, and the taxi drone. And also we'll keep on working on it, joining, also integrating all our knowledge, the management of electronics, the electronic control in all systems. And in the same way, we are working on new fuels such as hydrogen and so on and so forth. And the motivation of this project we started in Tecnalia, we are not just working on things related to a customer, but looking further, we can see also some potential opportunities of business for the future, perhaps in the midterm. And from these developments of electrification of aircrafts, of commercial ones, everything having to do with the identification of flight means, we have developed a kind of knowledge that really stimulated us with this vision for the midterm of the urban mobility and air mobility, to implement all this knowledge in a new model of aircrafts. Carlos is going to tell us, which is a drone with drones. So our patent allows that the vehicle can render some services and have features similar to what we have on course now. And I'm gonna stop with this introduction, and now let's go to the video, which is explanatory, and then Carlos will explain to us not just the product, but also the business that from that moment onwards they want to develop. One of the images that we repeat more often when we talk about the future are those flying cars moving in a urban environment among the buildings in the city. we opt for an air taxi for urban air mobility, electrical for one person. And the goal is to be integrated 100% in the city in the dimensions, and the fact that it's just for one person is that they can park in a parking place for a car nowadays with 15 kilometers, 15 minutes, and you can reach the center of the 90% of the cities at the worldwide level. The movement that the aircraft has is more similar to the one of the vehicles all of us use on daily basis, such as the bus, the car, and so on. And this is the difference regarding the existing things nowadays in the market. It allows that the cabin can be very steady. It's not necessary to make any kind of movement in the sense of the side part and the itinerary, and this is the point that can change the paradigm of how flying cars function nowadays. It must be integrated in the city. Well integrated is something very appreciated by people. It must be ecological and efficient at the energetic level. The day of the flight, in order to take away all kind of safety, to place the batteries and make it fly, we had the uncertainty what is going to happen. And then really we were very happy when we saw that it could fly, and the goals we wanted to achieve had been fulfilled. Air mobility of the future. Now I'm here. Lovely. And the more I see it, the more I like it. Seems to be the future right here. Well, thank you so much to all the organization for having welcomed us, to all the sponsors, the organization. Thank you for having invited us to give visibility. Thank you to the lecturers because of their interesting presentations. Javi, Tecnalia, those were the ones integrating us in this project. And before talking about the mobility, we would like to say why UMILES is here. UMILES as a company, as a group, is set up in the year 2016. It represents the biggest consortium of companies at the state level and one of the biggest at the global level of companies operating drones. They are operating in different services, in different sectors. And we also make training and development and manufacture of technology for own usage and also for use of the third parties. And then we have What 43, which is a humble company of executive management, big enough to make us understand certain needs at the time of thinking of transport in the mid and in the short term. So the merging of these two experiences we have got there, and to know Tecnalia in the way, has led us to this world to merge both of them in one. And we started with this project. In the case of the video we have seen, there is a view that is more future oriented than the one we have now, because it represents, for instance, just an aircraft for one person, maybe two, that can take us from the point A to the point B in an unmanned way, totally autonomous without a pilot. And we need a whole regulatory process for this, and a process that can identify these aircrafts and some steps. And from our point of view, we are going to start with aircraft that have been driven by one pilot. Then we will start with a remote pilot, in the end just with one pilot, and then in an autonomous way. This aircraft, baptized as the Human Concept 1, will have a second version. We are going to start flying in European projects from March onwards, and we are going to have visibility, and we are going to start working with big stakeholders such as people who are building infrastructures, managers of the airspace, in order to integrate it in the urban area. So the mission of this drone is an intra-urban one, 15 kilometers, and it can seem a very short distance, but in certain cities people need hours for that, and it can be also a very safe way to know where they are. And working on it and to shorten these terms and to go to the mid-terms, we have started to develop another vessel or aircraft that shouldn't be so ambitious technologically and should be closer to the daily operative we could know. And we started to design LinkedIn, which is an aircraft with 6 seats, and it's going to allow us, from this experience we were telling, to identify certain missions that we are going to substitute them in a cleaner way regarding the short distance in aviation, and also the opening up of new roads, because with these more efficient and economic systems it can be more versatile in order to transport people. So roads that are not existing and roads that are not that efficient right now. I'm not going to talk much more. In the end, really, our goal in UMALS is very simple. We are going to try to make a transport that is much cleaner, in this case the air one, and in the next edition we may talk about marine or about terrestrial topics, but in this edition the goal is to take a transport system in the air much cleaner than the conventional one, and to take it everywhere and for any person, and we'll try to do it in a term where we can see it, all of us who are here, and we'll keep on working with Ternali in order to achieve this. Hopefully we see it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much to Tecnalia and to you, Miles, for having introduced this electrical helicopter. So let's see whether in the next edition of Zoom Bilbao they can come here flying with their helicopter. So let's go to the Earth in order to know more services developed in order to optimize the sustainable times, and also be very welcome, and shouldn't say anything, Carlos, the COE of SEAT Code. Be very welcome. My name is Carlos Buenos Vinos. I think I'm the only one with a t-shirt in the audience. Don't worry, nothing happens. The elephant in the room. So SEAT Code is a spin-off that was created in 2019 with this trend to create external companies in order to enjoy and to explode with this innovation. And somebody like me who comes from the internet sector with a traditional company such as SEAT, and somehow magic was born, and there are funny things as the one we are going to see. The goal is to talk about new models of business, and what we like to do is to try to find business models that can generate profitability for the company. We are pivoting to a sales of mobility services, where not only the vehicle sales and the product one, but it is just an instrument to end up in a goal. And we want to think of mobility from the point of view of the user. So the goal is really to generate money, and from 2019 we have set up an innovative company of 150 developers, not only of people mobility but logistics and many other things that are high secret and I can't explain here. So I like this introduction where we were talking about real cases, so I'm going to shoot with solutions we have already implemented, and for sure you can be interested, both these responsible people of companies, mayors, and so on and so forth. Nowadays we have got in the platform we have developed, it has taken us 1 year and has been launched by the pandemics, where we could work in a remote way. We could start with digital solutions and new ways of working, and we have a mobility platform with 600 vehicles connected. We have got 1,100 scooters, we have 8,200 bicycles, we have got 300 scooters, and we have got 50 buses too. So mobility as we understand it in SEAT Code is holistic, integral, and compared to my colleagues, instead of being focused from the product, we are focused on the final user, and we understand that mobility is multi-brand. I'm working in SEAT, But when we go to the Campa B, perhaps they have got helicopters, drones, or bicycles. Nothing happens. So mobility is holistic. So we must have a solution that allows us to connect different brands of different brands, existing or non-existing, and it must be also multiple, because we can go to a city and they can have just fleet of buses, but they can have, for instance, the fleet of municipal bicycles, of share cars. So the kind of vehicles we can have are really very different. So we want to find a solution that can integrate every kind of vehicles, for instance, helicopters available. So multi-country, and apart from that, multi-user. We have been thinking in mobility in a traditional one, but if we are just thinking not on an individual but a collective basis, such as, for instance, a Netflix platform you are enjoying also with friends or with other people. So multi-customers means to understand the mobility not only from the point of view of the mobility, but also in an individual way, but also a circle of friends that can enjoy it too. So we have found the solution, thinking of several cases of use, corporate one, for cities, and so on and so forth. So the solution is a solution of what you would expect from a technological company, so management of fleet, control, forecast of demand, geofencing, and all the facilities you could think of and more. So the relevant is not the product as itself. We are offering white label and customizable solutions. So for instance, for the Bilbao town hall, and for instance they need an app that integrates scooters, bicycles, and everything. We offer these mobile things, and also this whole operation of the fleet based on the backend and so on. I'm going to show you the cases we have got here. The first of all, we have got this in the case of Barcelona. We are operating with this fleet of SEAT that has been launched by our sister company in the service of mobility. So we have got the systems in Barcelona with deployed in Barcelona with a platform that we have got in the cloud. So you go there, you take your motorbike, I book it, I start it, I go to see my parents, I make a rate, I pay more, I pay less. I have got a discount on monthly basis, on daily basis. So we do this in Barcelona right now. And we do more or less the same in Finland with fleets of bicycles. They are operators that make tenders for the public service, this management of bicycles, and they need a robust solution. What does it happen? A big amount of these bicycle manufacturers are Chinese, and so on and so forth, and hardware and software. So to have somebody in Barcelona committed and who knows about mobility, because the good thing is that we have got 70 years of history, is that we are a reliable partner at the time of operating services at the software level, digital one, and so on. We do the same in Dublin now. We are going to launch the service, well, it's already launched, this bicycles operation. So it is not a public municipal fleet, but it's an operator managing this. And the new interesting models are turning up, which is the whole part of hubs. So for instance, people come from outside of the city, we activate the hub, and there are 14 available one with physical, with bicycles available in a physical way and so on. We also have got the demand regarding this business administration, something really very interesting. And we have got in Wolfsburg, so this service on demand is when you want to go from a place to another and a car comes, and a car can be a Teca, a Tarraco with 7 seats or 9 seats. Sometimes there can be people inside, sometimes there can't be, and you have to optimize the route to collect them and leave them. In the case of Wolfsburg, not the company, but the city, the access for public people there, we have got a fleet of buses under demand that is covering the night timetable from 11 to 6 o'clock. So when people go leave their work, they go to have a beer and they enjoy the time and so on and so forth. And there is a service under demand and you request it. If those are adult people or old people, there is an operator who comes here, manages it under demand. So the cost is much lower and you give anyway service to them. So we even have real estate cases. So companies that are offering the hiring of offices, and they are offering also the whole mobility package, not only the office. And we are working with operators. In the case of this Amber Tower, the people who are working in this company, who are working on its turn in this Amber Tower, they are going to have the fleets, and we can see how they come and how they live. In the case of Martorell, in internet we have got a saying that it is to be your own customer, so to eat your own food, so you need to work on it. In Martorell, for you to capture the idea, we have got 15,000 employees, and this is something equivalent to a municipality, to a small, medium-sized municipality. So we have deployed solutions, and we have 10 buses where you can move to the A to the B, from the A to the B building, and apart from these extra points, because the drivers are part of a program of work insertion. So those workers who were making a physical work in a factory and they can't anymore because of some reasons, they continue working, and somehow in some municipalities and towns they are going to do this in the way of social insertion. So people who were more or less excluded, they can use these vehicles to favor it. And in the same way, in some populations, they are trying to introduce in these peaks of demand, so 9 o'clock, when people go to the schools and many parents are have to go there, and with the public transport is not enough. They are trying to cover these peaks of demand so that this town hall do not have to spend a lot of money. So big opportunities, and you don't need really a bus by itself, but it can be seven places, 9 places. So we are working with them. Taxis are going to be included to cover these times of peak, so we can know which geophysical areas, what is the origin of the itinerary and the variant. So in certain timetables, if the destination area is, for instance, outside the village, so the itinerary is going to cost €7, but the customer is just going to pass the equivalent amount of a bus ticket, 1 plus €1.5. So as total, this is going to be cheaper than to take a second bus on a regular line and so on. The same as in the cars, we have introduced 90 cars, and this is very interesting because we have eliminated many vehicles of the fleet that were unnecessary, and just 1% were used, and some of them were not even used, and we knew this because really the brakes were eroded. And of course, there are vehicles of pre-series. The ones that are manufactured by Seat in this case are really very expensive. So we have introduced 90 cars, and it has helped us to eliminate cars, to eliminate CO2. We have eliminated 0.2. We have eliminated also costs in the department. We have enlarged the parking place. There's more space to park, and because we are here in a small way, we have democratized the topic of the access to the vehicle, because in the past times, really the manager of a high level could have access to luxury cars and the other people couldn't, and you can do this right now. And this is something that I personally think is something very good. The part of bicycles, well, we can tell the same things. We have an active component, and the thing of having electrical bicycles plugged to the factory is allowing you to move, and it has got an active component when you are promoting the exercise, more or less active, of the employees, and with the contribution to the healthcare. And for instance, in Barcelona, in Martorell, with the motorbikes, the weather is lovely, so instead of going by car, to go by motorbike there really is very funny and increases productivity, and we do not have really accidents in the factory. And we also have got the scooters, but they are still in a first stage. The same case has been applied. Okay, we're finishing. we have got in this part of this Greek island, Volkswagen has taken a Greek island, Astipalaya, and is going to electrify it. It's going to electrify the whole mobility being shared, motorbikes, vehicles, and also the vehicles, the buses. So we have, and part of the staff is today on this Greek island and are making the test. And last, the case of B2A, which is the Conca Totena. This is a county in Catalonia where we have got 7 municipalities, 80,000 people, and 90% of the transport that is made there is made between the 2 municipalities. The people do not go to Barcelona. So we have been working with them for the last 6 months. And they had 20, well, there are 20 motorbikes, 20 cars, 25 scooters. And the idea is really to increase this industrial tissue, the productivity, favoring the shared car to move. So these are the use cases. This is something we can do. And it's somebody who is responsible of human resources, is interested in improving the mobility of the employees, reducing costs, and moreover, also, if you are thinking of giving a service, well, just contact with us and we will be happy to talk to you and to cooperate with you. Thank you so much. So thank you so much to you, Mr. Buenos Vinos, for your presentation. I invite you to go back to your seat because we still have got more new things to know. And thank you to all the lecturers for introducing to us these solutions and that make us trust in a future with no emissions and where we can live in a healthy way.